coming here from the Chord Progression Podcast, the podcast for young rock and metal fans discover new music and help them find a place they can connect and feel accepted. Welcome to this other clip from our podcast with Brendan from the band Hostile Array, and we talk about the fact that the band sound has kind of changed over time a little bit from when they first came out with music to what is currently on their Trauma EP, which has much more of a post-hardcore vibe, more that early 2000s post-hardcore vibe, mixing with a little pop-punk emo and a little metalcore in there as well. But again, that post-hardcore side really being the crux of it, and really go a little bit more in the depth behind what they were thinking and kind of Brendan's idea behind that as well. But before we hit that clip, make sure you hit the like button to push this video in the algorithm. Make sure that more people get to know about Hostile Array and, of course, the Chord Progression Podcast. And if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button, which is right here, to make sure you're notified every time we put out videos every single Tuesday and Thursday for full podcast episodes and interviews. Every time we put out a reaction clip and, of course, our Friday song reaction as well. If you're already subscribed, thank you. It's the best way to support us, as YouTube's the best place to be for the podcast. So enjoy this one. Let's go.
And it's kind of a catch-22 with that as well, because I know some people probably have listened to our music prior to the stuff we're putting out now, and I would say that our music right now is a little bit more accessible than the things that we were playing when we first started. I'm sure someone would probably be like, well, they're taking influence from these more mainstream artists. It's a sellout kind of thing and everything. And it's like, obviously we're not really selling out. I mean, but obviously it's helped somewhat to reach new people, but it's really just like, no, I like what I'm hearing out of this element, or I like what I'm hearing out of, this artist over here. And I kind of want to adopt some of that and try to make my own version of XYZ, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because like, I guess my taste have kind of changed over the years. Like I still know very much that where I come from with the metalcore and post-hardcore scene, there's a lot of other styles of music now that have started appealing to me as I'm just kind of expanded my palette and not really caring what people think is cool at the time. I'm just like, what do I enjoy? And I feel like anyone that grew up in a local music scene knows that feeling of pressure to adapt their own art to what is popular in that scene or what their friends think is cool, and you can't really truly fully admit every single thing that you really like because it doesn't fit in that niche of your clique, right? So it's been freeing to kind of explore new sounds and just do whatever the hell we want.
Okay, so let's unpack two major pieces of that portion from Brendan of Hostile Array on the Chord Progression Podcast. The first piece is when he talks about just experimenting with different sounds that he's getting into that he likes. It's when bands do that, are they selling out? There are times where bands will sell out. Yes, that has been something that has been a thing in rock and metal in the past. I mean, Fall Out Boy is a great example of that. They said that they were making pop music between the 2015 and their most recent outing, based on the fact that they wanted to make that stuff because they knew it was going to be hit on radio. They knew it was going to sell. And again, that's a decision that they made. But there are a lot of times where bands change their sound based off of changing taste and what they're interested in, and because they want to give something like that a try. Take a look at Bad Omens. I mean, you listen to their original album, then you listen to their second album, then you take a listen to The Death of Peace of Mind, and you can see the transition there. And I believe Noah Sebastian did say that on The Death of Peace of Mind, he felt more free to write the way that he wanted to write and write more towards the style of what Bad Omens would eventually be. And it does mix a lot of that stuff in there, but we see a little bit of a different style and different influences that come in to The Death of Peace of Mind versus the self-titled or the second album as well. However, you see the success that has happened by them just kind of going off and doing whatever they want. And they went from, I believe I said this, from when I went to go and see them perform live right before the pandemic hit, even though the show got canceled, it was going to be in a room of maybe 250, 300 people at the most. The first time I saw him play a headlining show, though, was in front of over 1,000 people, and the next time I get to see him play a headlining show is going to be over 3,000 people. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense. But the other thing that Brendan said that absolutely stood out to me was the local scene and the pressure that can come from there, because from a local scene, you're very tied in with everything that's going on there and all the people that are around there, because that's a community, that's a family, that's your whole entire world at potentially at some point in time that you're trying to make it as a band, because those bands might be the ones that are going to support you. Those are going to be the ones that are going to really help you out. And when we say support the local music scene, no one's going to support the local music scene more than the people that are actually in it, no matter how hard we try to push it. However, there can also come some peer pressure in there, like we see in a lot of other places, like we had seen when we were maybe in middle school or in high school, like a lot of people see when they're in the working world, a lot of the peer pressure that comes from there, because whatever people think is cool or whatever people think is the right way to go about it, they're going to try and push a lot of other people into that so it fits within a specific realm or fits within a specific lane. And when it comes to creative sound as well, it can hamper your creative ability. And taking a look at what Brennan, Hassel, Ray were talking about, I mean, now that they're kind of breaking away from that and they're able to try all these different things freely and not give a shit about what everybody else thinks, now they're making more music that's going to fit for them, that's going to be a little bit better for them. And I absolutely love the way they're going about it, and I absolutely love the idea behind it as well. So if you're in a local band, I mean, it's okay to try and mess around with your sound, try and go away from maybe a little bit what you started with. Of course, that could still be the absolute core of what you're doing, but play around with a couple of different things, see what happens. And if you're getting a lot of pressure from your local scene to stay within a certain sound because that's the sound that's popular within that scene, how else are you going to stand out unless A, you are doing that sound so much better than everybody else, or B, you're doing something completely different that a lot of other people are getting into, but you have to do it for the way that you want to do it because that's what you want to do, not because it's going to make you money, because then you're going to end up like Fall Out Boy is going to be like, man, those last 2 records before this 2022, like, shit, yeah, we weren't not the biggest fans of that. But again, to each their own. That was the decision you make, and it's up to you to make those decisions. So I want to thank Brendan for bringing that up. If you want to check out our whole entire episode with Hassel Ray, hit the link description of the podcast for the full episode here on YouTube, or you can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Amazon with the link description of the podcast below, or episode I should say below as well. Hit the like button over here to make sure you push this video in the algorithm if you like it, and put in the comments, what your thoughts on what Brandon had to say. Make sure you hit that subscribe button as well if you haven't already, to support the podcast, to keep us growing, and to make sure you're not missing out on every interview we do that comes out every single Tuesday and Thursday, and every single reaction clip, and of course our song reactions every single Friday. I want to thank you guys for supporting the podcast. This is Kevin, and I'm out.